31 Ideas That Are Wrong, Part 1, International Relations. Hello, and welcome to the Bystander Effect, where we see what's happening but don't stay silent. My name is Keith, and today's episode is the start of a series called 31 Ideas That Are Wrong, and it will be broken into 4 different topics. Of course, many of you may disagree with one or a few of the items on this list, and I admit that the title is a bit provocative. However, to me, these are pretty basic things, and disagreeing with any of them will make it pretty difficult to have an accurate understanding of our world. And I thought it would be good to collect them all based on topic in one place where it can be digested quite quickly. So, if you agree or enjoy this list, please like and share. If you don't, tell me why in the comments. And with that said, let's get started with part number 1 on international relations. First up, globalization equals a rules-based system of cooperation. Whether it's the United Nations, the Geneva Convention, the ICC, there's a rules-based order. All nations have to follow it, and that's the world that we live in. No, the world is under a violent, imperialist global empire run by the United States, whose singular purpose is to maintain unquestioned and routinely violent hegemony. It's an empire run by the U.S. It's a declining empire, and we can talk more about that later, but you just look around the world at all the military bases, almost 800 of them. They're a constant source of threat and a source of actual violence. The United States has supported fascists against international law. They're selective. The supposed rules don't really apply. The only essential rule is if the U.S. can use you, you're okay, and if you're not, we'll condemn you. And what is the purpose of this empire? What is the purpose of this isolated unipolar hegemony? The extraction and accumulation of wealth and capital. This is the world order. It isn't about laws and equal rights. So this idea is wrong. Number 2, the U.S. is a force for peace and stability in the world. No, it's not. As Martin Luther King correctly pointed out, the United States is the greatest purveyor of violence in the world. Just constantly at war in its history, the great majority of years, intervening in the affairs of others since it has taken its position of power post-World War II. Just constant interventions. Also non-military forms. The sanctions, it was just released. Well, nearly 40 million people dead since 1970 from U.S. and Western-led sanctions. Even little things like making food a human right. U.S. says no. Or ending torture and other cruel or degrading forms of punishment. 3 countries in the world said no, the U.S. and Israel and Argentina. So no, the United States is not a force for peace and stability. Next up, number 3, China, Russia, Iran, Cuba, all the and other malign states are threats. You hear this a lot, the threat of China or the threat of Iran. Threats to what? None of these countries have the record of causing destabilization and violence that the U.S. has. Compare the bombs dropped by China versus the U.S. Compare the military bases and who is surrounding whom. It's not even close when you look at Iran. Even the complicated and horrible situation in the Ukraine can be traced back to American empire, as Henry Kissinger knew and talked about. No dove right here. So just constant meddling all across the world All these countries have that are maligned have nowhere near the record of violence that the U.S. does, from Iraq, Nicaragua, to Indonesia. It's not even close. All over the world. Just look at the military budgets. These are all these countries combined versus the U.S. This is what a threat looks like. Of course, only one country has used the terrible technology of nuclear weaponry in the history of the world. Twice. Unnecessarily. The United States. So it's just absurd to talk about the threats that other countries pose when considering this record. And it doesn't stop there. Even soft kinds of threats, not just violence, but the U.S. has intervened in elections 128 times since 1946, just constantly manipulating elections. We even brag about it and put it on the cover of magazines. So, so much for all that Russian interference in our elections. Next up, number 4. America's recent wars have been well-intentioned mistakes. Okay, maybe the U.S. has a lot of power and it uses it too much, but it's usually for good intentions, right? No. Empires don't work like this. You can see 4.5 million deaths caused since 9/11. We can trace all this back to Nuremberg. Any war of aggression, like Afghanistan, like Iraq, like Vietnam, is the supreme international crime. So no, these aren't well-intentioned mistakes. Of course, this leads back to the hegemony and the wealth accumulation I talked about before. Fifth idea that is wrong. Thank you for your service. This is repeated as a kind of sacrosanct idea. Thank you for your service. And perhaps many American servicemen and women are well-intentioned, and I'm sure they think they're protecting freedom and spreading democracy, but that's not true. The United States Armed Forces are directly making my existence less secure. They're making working class people's existence less secure. The only service they provide is to secure more wealth for rich people. Rich and horrible and violent people, actually. There are examples of people who I do thank in the military, people like this, who have a moral core and who show an example of how to really serve the people and refuse to follow immoral and illegal orders. Last one for today, number 6, Israel. I will go over this in more detail in a single episode, but no, this is an idea that is wrong. First off, it's not complicated. There is one horrifically brutal oppressor, Israel, and there's one victim, Palestine. That's it. The end. It's not a war. It's not a conflict. It's genocide. It's ethnic cleansing, and it has been for decades. This has nothing to do with religion. Judaism is fine. It's completely separate from the violent political ideology of Zionism. They're totally separate. Zionism is a far-right political ideology of colonization. Judaism is a beautiful tradition and beautiful religion. It has nothing to do with the Holocaust. The lesson of the Holocaust is not that Jews are a particularly targeted or vulnerable people who need their own state. That is not the lesson of the Holocaust, that Jews are particularly targeted. The lesson of the Holocaust is that anyone, any society is capable of atrocities, and all of us in the world are complicit in those atrocities if we don't stop them. That's the lesson of the Holocaust. It has nothing to do with self-defense or terrorism. The occupation of Israel or of Palestine by Israel is the terrorism. The occupation by Israel is the aggression. Palestinians are the ones who act in self-defense of all stripes. Israel de facto cannot act in self-defense because they are occupying, and that occupation is always an aggression. October 6th was more illegitimate than October 7th. October 5th was more illegitimate than October 7th. Israel is the aggressor. It's the illegitimate foreign colonizer. Israel is the terrorist state. Any violence in response to terroristic aggression of occupation is legally protected and legitimate according to international law and the United Nations. It has nothing to do with democracy or shared Western values. The murderous state of Israel is simply yet another in a long line of brutal regimes supported by American power to further its destructive hegemony for wealthy elites. It has nothing to do with American values. As Biden said, if Israel didn't exist, they'd have to invent one. Given all this, there's no two-state solution. The reason for Israel's existence, its existential definition, is the ethnic cleansing of Palestine. A mythical two-state solution is implicitly incompatible with Israel and its nature, its reason for being. So no, there is no two-state solution, and no, Israel is an idea that is wrong. So, that's it. 31 ideas that are wrong, international relations style. What do you think of this list? Do you agree or disagree? Did I miss anything? What do you think are some common ideas about international relations that are wrong? Tell me in the comments below, and tune in next time for part 2, where I talk about ideas that are wrong in politics. Can't wait. Thanks for watching. And please, if you liked that video, don't forget to click like, subscribe, comment down below. I'll have more videos coming out on a regular basis as well, so you can follow me all over the internet at some of these accounts, and I'll see you in the next one.